Greg Abbott has... So, okay, background on this. Greg Abbott is the governor of Texas. I've heard good things and bad things about him. He's done some good things in the last few years, some seemingly pro-MAGA things, and he seems broadly pro-MAGA, but I have heard some bad things about him as well, so not sure on that. However, this is one of the good things. The southern border of the US is in a catastrophic situation. 300,000 immigrants from south of the US, mostly, but also people from all over the world, flooding in every month, 300,000 a month, and that's the official numbers. It may be way worse than that. It could be way more than that. Every month. And the federal government are facilitating this. They're letting it happen, as it seems quite evident that they are from several sources. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has, I think, does he have the largest portion of the border is in his state? I think that's correct. Either way, a very large portion. He decided at one point, about 2 weeks ago, I guess, maybe 1 week ago, to send in the Texas National Guard, I think, to control the border, to take control of the border, particularly in a place called Eagle Pass Park, which is, I think, a place where a lot of the crossings are happening. So that happened. That was something that we covered roughly a week ago. Since then, the Supreme Court of the US voted 5-4, with Amy Coney Barrett being the deciding vote, unfortunately. Supposed to be Republican, voted 5-4 to allow the federal government to cut the barbed wire and reopen the southern border. At least to cut the barbed wire. And that was an emergency hearing initiated by the Democrats, I believe. So the federal government move in, they cut the barbed wire, and that's where we were. Now we're up to this point with Greg Abbott's official statement. Greg Abbott says, the federal government has broken the compact between the United States and the states, which I think is fair. Given the way they've been treating the border, they have been derelicting that duty. I think Abbott's probably right here. He says the executive branch of the United States has a constitutional duty to enforce federal laws protecting states, including immigration laws on the books right now, which is, I think that's fair. He says President Biden has refused to enforce those laws and has even violated them. The result is that he has smashed records for illegal immigration. Despite having been put on notice in a series of letters, one of which I delivered to him by hand, President Biden has ignored Texas's demands that he perform his constitutional duties. I didn't know about these letters, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's obvious anyway. It sounds like Abbott did everything he could to solve this properly. So if that's true, then he has a good chunk of support from me. President Biden has violated his oath to faithfully execute immigration laws enacted by Congress. Instead of prosecuting immigrants for the federal crime of illegal entry, President Biden has sent his lawyers into federal courts to sue Texas for taking action to secure the border. President Biden has instructed his agencies to ignore federal statutes that mandate the detention of illegal immigrants. The effect is to illegally allow their en masse parole into the United States. And by wasting taxpayer dollars to tear open Texas's border security infrastructure, President Biden has enticed illegal immigrants away from the 28 legal entry points along this state's southern border, bridges where nobody drowns, and into the dangerous waters of the Rio Grande. I'm sure that's also true. Under President Biden's lawless border policies, more than 6 million illegal immigrants, interesting number, have crossed our southern border in just 3 years. Chat, do you really think you could do 6 million in 3 years? That sounds like a lot. And yet, probably true. That is more than the population of 33 different states in this country. That's a lot of people. It's in just 3 years. Jesus Christ. This illegal refusal to protect the states has inflicted unprecedented harm on the people all across the United States, he says, which I think is true. He says James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and the other visionaries who wrote the US Constitution foresaw that states should not be left to the mercy of a lawless president who does nothing to stop external threats like cartels smuggling millions of illegal immigrants across the border. Yeah, it does not make sense that the federal government are the only group who can take responsibility for the border. Whilst they are probably the first group that should, because they deal with the country, it's especially the outside, especially external threats, international diplomacy, military, and border enforcement, it is folly. It would be very bad to let them be the only group who are allowed to take any sort of responsibility over the border. No, the states should be allowed and obligated to have involvement. to do what he's doing here. What he's doing here is not necessarily exactly in line with, exactly the rules on the books as of today. It might be, but that's not the point. The point is not to obey the bureaucracy. What he's doing here is absolutely in line with the whole point of America. It's absolutely in line with what the founders of your country wanted. There's no doubt of that. And that is ultimately what the people of your country should be doing, especially at a time like this. Because things tend to fall into a low energy formula, and that formula eventually becomes corrupt, eventually becomes useless and detrimental. So you have to do things like this. You have to break conventions like this sometimes. And this is one of those times. He says, that is why the framers included both Article 4, Section 4, which promises that the federal government shall protect each state against invasion, and Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, which acknowledges the state's sovereign interest in protecting their borders, which was apparently presided by Scalia, or dissenting, I'm not sure. The failure of the Biden admin to fulfill the duties imposed by Article 4, Section 4 has triggered Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, which reserves to this state the right of self-defense. For these reasons, I have already declared an invasion under Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 to invoke Texas's constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. That authority is the supreme law of the land and supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary. The Texas National Guard, the Texas Department of Public Safety, and the other Texas personnel are acting on that authority as well as state law to secure the Texas border. Very based. It's hard to say very based in light of what Kari Lake did only recently. I mean, what she did was in like a extremely principled and courageous act. But this, like Greg Abbott, if he's going to put his money where his mouth is, could be far more wide-reaching. Declaring an invasion and then acting with the will to actually do something about it is exactly what the entire US needs. But if just one state does it, it's a great start. When I was about to start the stream, I saw that another state has actually joined Texas. Governor Kevin Stitt says Oklahoma stands with Texas. Wait, I say based, this is very worrying because this could be yet another cause of a massive constitutional crisis. This is the kind of thing which could lead to a secession attempt or a civil war or some massive legal battle, just like what we were seeing in 2020.
Very American.
But it is indeed
very American.
It's very true, but it's also very concerning. It's dangerous, but I think it's probably appropriate to do this by Abbott.
Wait, now, new information.
Well, we're about to get to that. Before the stream, I saw that this one state had announced that it's standing with Texas. I've just been linked this map from WIG, which shows now 5 states since we started streaming have declared that they are with Texas.
Is it Boogaloo time, boys?
It's becoming
it. Is Tim Pool finally vindicated?
I'm down to boog.
So here's Virginia also standing with Texas. Glenn Youngkin, who was the one that Biden, by the way, in that clip we saw earlier, said or implied was illegitimate. Glenn Youngkin says Virginia stands with Texas. Greg Abbott is doing the job Joe Biden and his border czar refused to do to secure our border. The Biden admin has turned every state into a border state. We must stop the flow of fentanyl, save lives, and secure our southern border. This is very rapidly ballooning now. Lots of states are joining in on this.
I really hope my state joins in on this. Ohio has been pretty based in regards to. I
just want to see if we can get a list that's maybe rapidly updating of which states are standing with Texas. The Field Going Hard in chat says having a border is the same as having a country. Every state government that does not align with Texas is illegitimate. This guy says, forget about standing with Ukraine or Israel. Every American should stand with Texas. Agreed. At the moment, that is correct.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to.
He's implying that Elon Musk is standing with it. I don't know if that's actually been said yet. It could be a fake account. South Dakota and Kristi Noem of South Dakota and Ron DeSantis of Florida have joined the rebellion. But I wouldn't call it that just yet. Offering support and assets while standing in lockstep with Texas against federal government tyranny. Yeah, good. All right, let's see if we can see anything else. It's footage. This is footage, I assume, of Texas soldiers. I mean, safe to say the soldiers, I think, National Guard, marching into the area, riot shields and all kinds of... Very small one there.
They're so based. Strong men.
Now, this is not a Fed protest because there's fat ones. And also because they're actually doing something to help.
Nothing better than seeing strong men actually trying to protect their people.
Well, look, like I've been saying, all you require is people in power with the will to do something right. Whatever you want to say about what Greg Abbott has done or not done up until now, and I will certainly broach comments on that because it has taken a while, he is right now doing the right thing. He has the power to do it and he has the will to do it, so it's happening. That's all it takes. We have been prevented from getting people with the will to do right things into positions of power, but that's all we need to do to win the culture war. The field says this is closer to an insurrection than Jan 6th. You maybe could argue that, yeah. So there's Virginia as well. See, it's hard to get, it's happening so fast, it's hard to get a grasp on every state that this has happened with. But we do have the image here that was given, which this may not even be up to date. There may be more since this. And I suspect that we're going to start seeing a lot more of these states lighting up red.
It would be really funny to see the states in which the migrants are being shipped to that said let them in suddenly flip to supporting Texas because of how much trouble they've been given. I think New York, Illinois, I want to say Pennsylvania, like these upper northern states, which you would be like, oh, they're probably going to be against it because they have no idea what's going on the border. They have been shipped buses of these immigrants and is now being shoved into hotel rooms and things. Yeah. We might see them flip.
Yeah,
and joining up in this cause for this border crisis because it is a crisis.
Yeah. Field says they stayed between the velvet ropes on Jan 6th. These men are prepared to contest sovereignty under arms. Yes, it's very serious. And this is why it's so concerning. And I understand, like, as I said, Greg Abbott delayed on doing this, but I can kind of see why, because this is serious. This could lead to a lot of people dying, potentially. I'm not sure the Democrats and the federal government are willing to go that far. Maybe they reckon they'd lose.
Dude, America under Biden is so great, guys.
Montana governor, it says now. Do we have Montana on that list?
Oh, wow. Montana is MO, I think, it's not lit up yet on this map, so it must have just happened.
Dude, they all need to come together with this. I hope they do. I hope more and more people from Texas here.
I got the tweet. I don't know how verifiable it is, but
someone else is saying that it's happened. In Montana. Brian Kemp from Georgia, he's doing it too. They must have all had this ready because they all have... Oh, no, they don't have prepared statements. He's quoting the original statement. Abbott's leading the charge here.
They're all like retweeting.
We've got 2 more joining in. Do we have an updated map, chat? Because we've got 2, maybe 3 more states more than the last map we had. Brian Kemp of Georgia says enough is enough. Yeah. Our southern border is in crisis thanks to the Biden administration's refusal to do their job. Greg Abbott and the state of Texas will have our full support. Georgia is there, just above Florida. So what we would need is LA, I think, is that Louisiana? And then New Mexico, Arizona, and it's not going to happen in California, but Arizona, New Mexico, and Louisiana are the other 3 border states. Now, I think Louisiana is red, and New Mexico and Arizona are sort of purplish, somewhat blue. So I'm not sure about them.
They're generally blue because of the major cities. There's not much, not much other places to live in those states. So unfortunately, they're generally blue because they have major cities, but not a lot of rural landscape because it's mostly desert
and a lot of immigrants entering the country and changing the voting numbers.
Well, the immigrants are surprisingly red. If you know, a lot of the old age or the old school like immigrants are red because they're Catholic values and their family values. They rely with Republicans on everything, except they've been fed this lie that Democrats are for them.
I'm not sure it's even that.
It's not those that are problem. It's their kids that they have there that are like. Check on.
Listen, they're illegal immigrants. They're probably not going to be too gung-ho about voting on their own beliefs. However, if they're paid by Democrats and bussed around to multiple locations to vote in places that don't have any voter ID to vote Democrat specifically, which has been happening in most states in the US for years, that's what I'm concerned about with the immigrants. I'm sure that you're right that they do have generally conservative values, but I don't think that's what they're voting on, unfortunately. And we know that's been happening for a long time. You look on Texas, people have been saying for years, Texas is going blue. You look at the counties where it's going blue, it's right across the border. And then the cities are blue. Everything else is red.
Yeah. And I mean, I've heard a lot as well about a bunch of Californians keep going down to Texas, like more and more and more of them. And it's like an intentional thing where they're actively trying to get more liberals down there to skew the votings and everything.
That might be it. I suspect that's actually rural Californians who are conservative, fleeing to somewhere sensible. But you're right, that's a possibility.
Maybe.
That's a possibility.
I'm only speculating, Phil. I'm not saying that's what's actually happening. I've just seen a lot of it where people are saying they're actively trying to turn these places Democrat. So
yeah. So we have as of well, God, this was about an hour ago. As of about an hour ago,
do we have Louisiana on there? I think we might have Louisiana on there now.
If you have it, go and link it. But this summary is Florida, Virginia, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Montana, and did I miss one? May have done. Same with Texas. Di potentially slightly misunderstanding that quite nuanced matter doesn't mean she doesn't understand it, and it also doesn't mean the rest of us don't. We don't know exactly what it's like, but we get the gist that the cities run the states, but there's loads of counties, most of the counties, the vast overwhelming majority of the counties are just full of people who are mostly red. Because that's how it is in the US. You get blue cities, you don't really get blue states.
Yeah, and I'm not denying as well that those fleeing are not always going to be doing that. I'm saying that there is active people that are going to these places and trying to do it. I'm not saying that's all of them. I'm sure they're actively fleeing, many of them, trying to get to better places, as you say. I've never heard a good thing about California, to be honest with you.
People are asking other governors why they're not standing with Texas. Just Governor Little of Idaho.
Yeah, I saw that tweet, actually, the guy tagging the Idaho guy.
Go ahead and do it yourself, chat. Your own governor in your state, go ahead and tag them on Twitter. Ask them why they're not standing with Texas. Even if they're Democrat, just ask them. It's something that you can do right now that can help in your own state.
Even if you're... I
mean, even if you're not American, you could do it, but especially if you are. Heat map. Interesting.
But if you want to support me in my state, go ahead, tweet at that guy. That's my governor.
Go for it, chap. Frankly, even if you're not there, it still affects you. But especially if you're in that state.
It does.
So yeah, this is the current state of the states supporting Texas. This is likely to continue changing. As I said, before the stream started, we had just two. Just Texas and Oklahoma. Just while the stream has been running, we've got now 5 more. So it's changing quite rapidly. And chat, I would greatly appreciate you all keeping an eye on the changes so that we catch them as they're happening and can announce every new state that declares. Because while I am happy to keep an eye on it myself, I am also doing the stream. With migrant encounters at an all-time high, researchers have found that Congress has appropriated $20 billion over the last 2 fiscal years to fund refugee and entrant assistance. Not only have they derelicted their duty at the border, they have taken $20 billion of your money to make it worse. In case you wanted some perspective on what Greg Abbott has just done. Okay, so recent highlights from Operation Lone Star. Of course, they're calling it Operation Lone Star. As of this week, 14 states, Arkansas, Florida, Iowa, Idaho, Nebraska, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming have stepped up to support Texas's effort and deployed personnel and resources to secure the border in President Biden's absence. 14 states. It's a really good start. Really good start.
Ohio stays winning.
Ohio's in there, yeah. Now, I haven't seen Ohio declaring that. Perhaps they just haven't declared it.
No, I don't think. Maybe he's asleep. It is past his bedtime. Mike DeWine is kind of old.
Ohio, Texas. I'm not seeing anything about it here. Let's do top on that. It looks like it hasn't been declared. Yeah, and this is another thing we need to talk about. There's something I also had up. SCOTUS, feds can come take down your razor wire fence. Texas, okay, we'll just put up a lot more. Just put up more fence then. Which is what they're doing. In response to this, the emergency declaration from Supreme Court was you can cut the fences. So Texas just put up new fences. Democrats want the federal government to stop Texas from securing their own border. They are essentially admitting that they are cheering on the facilitation of an invasion of our country. And Beto O'Rourke here, just listen to this, right? He says, Abbott is using the Texas Guard to defy a Supreme Court ruling. When Governor Forbes did this in 1957, Eisenhower federalized the Arkansas Guard to ensure compliance with the law. Biden must follow this example of bold, decisive leadership to end this crisis before it gets worse. Buddy, I don't think the Texas National Guard are going to go for that. It's a big problem. Again, like this, when I said just now, it's not about bureaucratic or procedural correctness. It's not about following every letter of the law precisely. Even though I don't think he really is breaking the law here, or at least there are laws that he's following which are more important, which supersede laws that others may say he's breaking. It's about doing the right thing in defiance of illegitimate leaders. And not just the right thing as per your opinion, the right thing as per the Constitution. And he has a constitutional backing for this. And frankly, it's so bloody obvious. No one could seriously make the argument that what's being done is better for the US. So this is, and here's Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke coming out and just essentially saying, no, procedure, only what's on the books, only pure legalism, only the simple obedience of the current interpretation of the law. Well, O'Rourke, it's not working. It's catastrophic. Something has to be done. And Biden's not going to do it. And you could wait for Trump next year, but it's too long to wait. It's already a disaster. So, and that's even assuming it is Trump next year. So no, something has to be done. Like if the law makes it impossible for good people to solve problems, then they have to do it in defiance of the law sometimes. They have to use their right judgment. This is one of those times.
Too many people are concerned with the letter of law instead of the spirit of law.
Yeah.
I mean, the spirit of American law is fundamentally so much different than you see things written.
Yeah.
And a lot of the current written laws are just antithetical to the heart of America as it is. Mm-hmm. So you can't be like, oh, we have to follow the rule of law in America. We want the American function. We have to follow the law of, as it's written. No, that's not what our founding fathers did. That's not what the country is about. That's not what our foundations are. So anybody who thinks like this is just, frankly, un-American. You're fundamentally wrong.
Let's make something very clear. When a bunch of thugs supporting left-wing causes riot and burn shit and kill people and steal things, those things should be against the law. The rule of law should apply there. When the federal government sabotage the nation by letting third worlders pour in by the hundreds of thousands a month, that also should not be allowed. The rule of law should also apply to that. And so any average leftist who may have fallen into this conversation is listening to us right now might think, well, these right-wingers, they just want to sacrifice the law when it suits them and employ it when it's racist. No, we want the rule of law to make sense and to be enforced. We want what everyone should want, for the rule of law to be correctly written and to be enforced correctly. And it's very, very obvious in this case, not just from our own moral estimation, but from the letter of the Constitution, that what the federal government's doing on the border is just as much, it should just as much be against the law, be wrong and be prevented, as looting and stealing and burning, all these other things.
I mean, a lot of the time it seems like it's just of the whim of whatever judge that decides it at the time as well. A lot of these issues that I see.
Mm. Yeah, Nicholas Van Neal, the Texas decision was a small thing. It was just to allow the feds to cut the fences, which is still cucked, but it wasn't a final decision on the overall issue. And at this point, given the Supreme Court has already ruled on this, and yet states are still stepping up to say no, they might not even obey the Supreme Court if the Supreme Court do end up saying, you have to back down, let the feds take care of the border.
I thought like Texas had like special privileges and stuff like that when it came to the border specifically. Like, I'm not too informed of the whole law there, but I remember people saying that Texas had special privileges there.
I don't think so, but they have a lot of power. They're one of the wealthiest states. I think they're the largest state, and they have the greatest share of the southern border, I think. So they would have de facto greater power to do that. Only about 5 states in the US are border states.
As the ones like actively dealing with it at every given time, it would make sense that they should have like quite a big say on what's happening. They're the floodgates, right? Of like,
yeah, pretty much.
They're actively trying to dismantle it, and just like no, just let them through, guys. Let's destroy the country.
As correctly says, the Supreme Court hasn't told Texas to stop. They've only said the feds can get in there as well, which actually is arguably inviting even more chaos, to be honest. And then there's a couple of other Democrats. Joaquin Castro says Governor Greg Abbott is using the Texas National Guard to obstruct and create chaos at the border. No, he's using it to create order at the border. There was chaos until now. People flowing in by the hundreds of thousands. Surely you know that. And then he says, if Abbott is defying yesterday's Supreme Court ruling, which as far as I know he's not, because it was quite specific, then the president needs to establish sole federal control of the Texas National Guard now. I don't think that's going to work. I think they'll reject that. Hope so, anyway. Congressman Greg Kasar says, I agree with Joaquin Castro. If Abbott is defying yesterday's Supreme Court ruling, president needs to establish sole federal control of the Texas National Guard. So yeah, I don't know what would happen if Biden declares that the Texas National Guard are now under federal control. What do you reckon, chat? Press 1 if you think they'll say, no, we're not, and press 2 if you think they'll say, well, I guess we are. Because there's a lot of pessimistic people might think it's 2, and I would understand that, but I think it probably would be 1 on balance right now. Yeah, as Phil says, the entire point of the National Guard is that it's not controlled by the federal government. However, Beto O'Rourke cites precedent where it did happen, and though I don't trust him on much, he probably isn't lying about the fact that it has happened. And then 2 others are recommending that it happen now. So maybe they would try.
Well, like bringing them in, it's going to just be chaos, right? Because it's like if they want to go against what as you say, National Guard wants to do, then they'd be like, no, you have to listen to us. And they just say no, then there's a massive problem.
Oh, yeah.
Of like a power struggle right there.
Could lead to violence,
which I think getting them, bringing them in is a massive step towards civil unrest. But many, as you say that we're already in that right now. But this is quite quite severe, I think, at this point. Like this is going to turn nasty.
Yeah.
Well,
quickly. Oda, any order can be refused, Oda. Never forget that.
Because they're going to be like, no, listen to us. We're the superior ones here, and they're just going to be like, you.
Yeah.
We don't take orders from you. What do you mean? And then what happens then?
A new report compiled by the Congressional Budget Office, CBO, has revealed that since Joe Biden took office, more than 1 illegal immigrant has made their way into the country for every 2 American births. The report, titled The Demographic Outlook 2024 to 2054, found that while the number of people crossing the border illegally has gone up under Biden, fertility rates among women in the US has gone down. According to the CBO, net immigration among undocumented individuals totaled 1.2 million in 2021 and 2.7 million in 2022. The additional 3.3 million recorded between January and October 2023 brings the total number of illegal immigrants entering the US under the Biden admin's watch to 6.2 million, which is exactly what Greg Abbott quoted. the really sad thing about all this is that even if there is a massive conflict in the US between the forces of good reorganized to actually be a useful force, despite the pressure and isolating force and dominance and tyranny of our opponents, against those forces of evil, even if that battle proceeds, even if it starts here with Texas, and even if there's a good chance we can win, that internal conflict is exactly the result and exactly the intention of Soviet subversion methods, which either are just coasting now from the USSR's attempts back in the 20th century, or have been picked up, more likely, in my opinion, by China, possibly others, and are actively working right now. What you're seeing with the US right now, as I say, even if there is now an aware and integrated good team like there wasn't before, even if we've got that now, you still have a very unstable, very infighting country, a very unhealthy country compared to what it was before Soviet subversion, which was in many ways much, much healthier. Soviet subversion, and combined with Chinese subversion now, I suspect, has given them exactly what they would want, exactly the instability of the US, because it was so powerful, that was the only thing that could weaken it.
No, it was
it's really sad to see that.
The rapid push of immigration and the fact that good, strong white men now will probably die for their country and then actively push the population into an even dire strait, further destabilizing them, is a great thing. But Biden is a wonderful president. He's a wonderful president.
Well, I think, assume for a second that it's China, which... Assume for a second that this is mostly China carrying this on from the Soviet Union, which I think it probably is. What they would want, and they know that the US is too powerful militarily for them to take on, way too powerful for them militarily. They can't even take Taiwan if the US is active. And so even though it probably is a long shot from their perspective, they know their only chance is to destabilize the US to the point that the US is so concentrated on other things and so unhealthy that it can't extend its arm far enough to fight them at Taiwan. Or to fight them in general. Maybe China goes for the US mainland rather than Taiwan if the US is unhealthy enough. Now, that's a long shot for China, but it's probably the only way they can think of to achieve world dominance. I think that's probably what's happening. They're using the same Soviet methods and pushing it harder from a long way behind in the shadows across the Western world. That's probably the main thing that's causing the culture war. There's plenty of other influences too that are doing it. But that's probably the main thrust of it. Now, the weird thing about that is that I don't think China would survive without the US economy. I suspect that as weak as the US economy gets, China may be picking up some of that value, to support their BRICS thing. But I think without the US economy and without major European economies as well, China can't survive on its own. It's still dependent on that. It's still dependent on things that come from the West. So for some reason, they want to be world hegemon so badly that they're willing to sacrifice the world for it. It's such a stupid game. And Three Gorges Dam, that's all I want to say about that. If we restore everything, if we win, if we beat the subversion, then that needs to be an active threat. China needs to never do that shit again, and we need to block off a great deal of trade with China. That needs to be a threat.
Well, the crazy thing is that even China knows they couldn't survive without the U.S. Their economy itself isn't sustainable without foreign trade.
Yeah,
and I mean their declining birth rate is also becoming a big problem for them as well. Along with just general unrest among the people, they might not, hear about it. They might not get as much news out, but I mean.
Yeah.
The people aren't working as hard for the CCP as they used to. There's less and less faith in it all the time. It's not nothing right now is sustainable as it currently stands. Everything that is an issue that's been just pushed back and pushed back and pushed back all across the world, it's going to boil over, and we're seeing that in every single country.
Yeah. I got to think that similar to Nazi Germany being sort of pushed to extend outwards by its own policies, by its own structure, by its own rhetoric, China might be in the same situation, because China is so unstable internally, and we have seen indications of that they seem to have no choice but to just try to sacrifice everyone else's integrity for their own benefit, no matter how evil they have to be in doing so. And that's what they've been doing for years. And frankly, lots of countries hate China. They've been very evil in lots of places in the world, but they've been surviving because they spent a lot of time, like, essentially buying influence in US politics. If that ends, if you can end that, China's and they deserve to be at this point.